Hi, I'm the lone journalist for KRAZ TV with another book review. We're going to put this at the Zero channel, but we do have family friendly, and we'll show you that book next. I kind of got the book just because, well, it's an attractive cover, and it had a cute name, Can Fish Count, by Brian Butterworth. What animals reveal about our uniquely mathematical minds. It, at first, I didn't know if I was going to like it. It started out to where, in the first few chapters, I had to get my mind around it. But once I got into the book, it's just fascinating. It's mostly about neuropsychology, cognitive reasoning, and a lot of the brain work. But Dr. Brian Butterworth is an emeritus professor of cognitive neuropsychology at University College London, working on the genetics and neuroscience of mathematical abilities and disabilities. He is a fellow of the British Academy and the author of What Counts, as well as several academic books. He lives in London. It is published by Hachette Books. The Hachette Books. Basic Books. New York. The number 2 can represent a pair of shoes or a couple of knocks on the door. How did anyone ever realize that? It might seem obvious that only humans would be capable of that. Well, there's an even more astonishing discovery. Other animals can do math too. As cognitive psychologist Brian Butterworth shows in Can Fish Count, creatures throughout the animal kingdom can have innate mathematical abilities. Tiny fish can size up 2 different shoals, choosing the one with the greater number to avoid predation. Bees count objects like trees to help them navigate. And although we approach math as something we must be taught, these basic number skills are completely natural ability that humans have inherited from distant animal ancestors. Indeed, by exploring the mind of other animals, Butterworth shows how we can make sense of our own abilities. He even shines new light on math's most ancient question, just where do numbers come from? Full of discovery and delight, Can Fish Count reveals the long-hidden talents of our fellow creatures and gives us a new perspective on many of our own. He talks about in the brain, to see and to hold it, it's called accumulators. And so there's different accumulators, like bees accumulate landmarks. And amazingly, they talk about ants count their steps to find their way back. And yet, it may have taken a circuitous route to get to a food source or whatever, but when they come back, they zoom right back straight to by the shortest route. So they don't count steps coming back, I guess, as much as going forward, and then by counting the steps coming back, if it's less and arrives at the desk at home, it's they know they're not lost. If it takes more and they're not home, then they have to figure it out. But they try to go the most direct route. Bees are fantastic. If it's a short distance, they do circular dances. But if it's over a long distance, and they do a waggle dance, so they go one way and then they do a sinuous, like a synovial wave movement, and then waggle back dance the other way. And they do it along a sun line. And then they compensate for time of day, a time of the year, and all. So it's a fascinating story just about that. They talk about different cultures that they don't have per se numbers. Some of the like Aboriginal tribes used they didn't usually go past 5 but they could do, they called things one, a few, not a lot, many, and put descriptors on numbers that way. There's a difference between saying a number like one and giving it a word like one. So the digit, and it's one, and then you add another plus one equals, and then there's a new word called two. So it is a buildup. It's in the parietal lobes, and there's convolutions and fissures in the brain, and these neurons. Now they said birds don't have a neocortex that it's like a skin that covers the brain, but they have a thing called a pallium. And they said birds and some other creatures, their neurons are more tightly packed, and in the same area the bird has more neurons than the human brain does in certain cubic areas. So it's pretty an amazing story. And you know, they said there's birds that go 70,000 kilometers from the Arctic all the way to the Antarctic. The Arctic tern flies from Greenland and North Pole all the way to the South Pole and then back again in 1 year. It's an amazing, amazing story. He said we can even, well, they work with dolphins, but he said we don't have tanks and stuff for whales, but we have figured out that they count also. And it's just an amazing, amazing story about similarities between apes and humans, and yes, fish can count. They're not as sophisticated probably as we think we are, but we're not that amazing really. It is an innate ability from 350 million years ago, so it was in an ability that has been passed on through all species since the beginning of invertebrate animals. So it's an amazing, amazing story. I really enjoyed the book. It's got a lot of graphs, and it talks about things like corvus, which are crows, and all those. They say that a crow is as smart as a 7-year-old child. They do cite a parrot in here, an African gray called Alex, who lived for 30 years, and that bird was one of the most extensive memories, but he always practiced every day, or they had him work, and he could do amazing things that no other bird. So a lot of animals that do count through rigorous training actually do better after training, but innately they have it pretty much figured out on their own anyways. It's just that we have to verify and do double-blind tests and eliminations and stuff, and in the laboratory is how these psychologists and neuroscientists do that. So it's an amazing book. We got this book at the Tucson Pima County Library here in Tucson, just like you can get it at your library. So we want to thank everybody for watching KRAZ TV, and get the book, Can Fish Count, by Brian Butterworth. He's a scientist in England, and I have been there. Thank you for watching KRAZ TV. Goodbye.